afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mickey, the host of Beyond Page One podcast. Our guest today is Sam. Super excited to have Sam. She's had over 14 years of experience in the medical and aesthetic and kind of plastic surgery world. She excels at overseeing daily operations, ensuring compliance, and maintaining high industry standards. Her strategy in the business development world in this particular industry is really cool, and I'm really looking forward to kind of getting to explore what she knows about the industry. Key skills and expertise range from anything from the operational management side, strategic planning, leadership and mentoring. I could go on forever, but I'll stop there. I'll let her talk a little bit about herself. But Sam, welcome. Super happy to have you here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. Honestly, this is, I'll be very candid, my first podcast. So I'm really excited to be kind of sharing my journey with you and your listeners, because really the only people who know about, really what I do on a day-to-day are the people I work with. And, even some of my close family and friends are like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know what I do everything. How do I consolidate this for you? So Perfect. I'm really excited.
We'll send them the podcast at the end of this and they'll know exactly what you do.
100%.
So Sam, share a little bit about who you were as a child, and did you always have a passion for the beauty and the aesthetics industry?
Oh gosh. Well, as a child, I was a wild one. I grew up on a farm. I grew up with animals. I, grew up like picking blades of grass and looking for grasshoppers and things like that. So it didn't necessarily start as a young child, but definitely as I grew up and had, grandparents that actually pushed me into, I don't know why, but in the 80s, modeling was a thing. I started kind of like appreciating the beauty and aesthetics, from that perspective. I used to do like beauty pageants and, where I grew up in Brantford, Ontario, I think I was 12 years old and I won Little Miss Brantford beauty pageant. So it kind of, crazy. I have a newspaper clipping. I show my kids that, it's like, this was your mom, this was me at your age. And, it was really, I would say pretty early on, actually, that I got into this field. So, coming from a family of laborers and workers, I was the first to kind of get a degree, outside of, post-secondary education. So my journey is really evolved, from beauty pageants. So, yeah.
Cool. Very cool. What was your first job in the industry, and how did it kind of shape your professional journey?
Interesting. My first job, I tried owning my own business out of my home.
Really?
It was pretty interesting. So when I got started in this field, it was outside of university when I was really kind of thinking, what is it that I want to do with my knowledge now? Where can I translate that? Where are my passions? And I opened up an article, and I'm not a super religious person by any means, but I'm very spiritual. I let, the universe guide me. And my first kind of like opening and reading was, I think it was Times Magazine in 2005. And it was an article on laser hair removal. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Like the world in the United States was taking this by storm. And I remember reading like, this is a cool trend. Like let me see what I can do with this. Mm-hmm. And because it wasn't, like back then, the whole organic movement was coming about and, pushing for like USDA approval, all that kind of stuff. So I really took to that. I was like, let me dive a little bit deeper into this. So my business started with like holistic healthcare, like holistic wellness, organic facials and sugaring and all that kind of, aesthetic stuff. So that was kind of like my first intro to that. It didn't fly. My had a young son at the time, a newborn, and, graduating school and trying to start my own business. I found that it to be really, really challenging to bring in any sort of, I would say any sort of income to support a family, to help contribute to a family. So what I ended up doing was actually from owning my own business, going and learning about this industry. Like, where is this industry? What is it? It's called medical aesthetics. So I went to a private college and kind of fast tracked through it. I'm like, I don't want to spend another 2 years in school. So what I did, I took, I think it was a fast track of under a year. I think it was under a year. I learned all about lasers, everything you could learn about, like skin anatomy, lasers, the different types of treatments that were available at the time. So I ended up learning a ton of information from there. And funny enough, my school ended up hiring me to be an instructor from there. So I went from, trying to launch my business to learning about the business to teaching what that was, to other students who were eager to learn. And then from there, I got into sales. So I was like, how do I learn about this industry? Where can I find? So a position came up actually, and I ended up started selling IV therapy and, minor surgical equipment like plastic surgeons' offices and medical aesthetic clinics that were open at the time. So from there, I ended up learning what worked in businesses, what wasn't working for these companies. And it was like I had a way in because I had an interest, in selling them what I was, presenting to them. But also I asked a lot of questions and learned a lot of different business models and things like that. So yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Help.
So kind of now in your role as director of operations, you oversee complex networks of functions. How do you approach like streamlining the processes to ensure efficiency at PearlMD where you currently are?
Yeah. So currently, PearlMD is, I would say, we're a boutique. So we're a boutique that offers very specific services, and we have a very targeted audience of women exclusively.
Okay.
Not so much for the cosmetic side, but on the health side. So we have kind of two business models. And what that looks like is complete women's health and wellness, which is anything from, genetic testing to look for risk factors for diseases, understanding your micronutrient profiles to all of those, health related things that you're not getting from your family doctor. This is all private health care and health management for very affluent women, very, high functioning women who need to be at the top of their game and who need to stay functioning at a very high level. So we optimize their health that way. On the cosmetic side, so there's kind of this translation between, what we cover in our OHIP system versus what we cover in our private healthcare, and then the whole cosmetic beast. So that is a field that is constantly growing. And when my job coming on to PearlMD, when Dr. Perlman had reached out, I wasn't quite ready to make a move yet. But then, she presented me with this idea that, listen, this let me explain to you what we do, and I feel like I'm ready for someone like you. And I said, okay, this is exciting. This is amazing. I really liked her as a doctor and what she believed in, because it was everything that I had learned previously of this, like, whole, approach to health and wellness, but also as part of being a woman and focusing solely on women, this, how we look translates into how we feel, which translates to how we function. So really, people will look and say, it's such a superficial industry. Like, why would anybody want to do that? Well, it goes beyond that for women. Women, from the beginning of time, we take pride in how we look. We take pride in what we do. And, to be able to help that is really, really great. So with that comes a lot of inefficiencies or things like that we've kind of seen bottlenecks in workflow. We really have had to stay on top of trends and industry development, just like your iPhone. We really have to look at, okay, and my knowledge in laser and where I learned all of this comes in really, really handy, because you have all these reps and all these, businesses and manufacturers that are developing nonstop these ever evolving equipment. And what I'm able to do is really decipher, okay, this is what I know to be tried, true, tested, the gold standard for the industry. Tell me your differences. What makes you different? So I'm able to really help guide, when we're looking at technological advancements, really looking, I would say, pause that. It's like a ramble. I would say my knowledge in like the lasers is able to kind of help that, but also from a day-to-day workflow operational, hiring, training, making sure that this is such a niche industry that it's not like you can go to university and learn all about medical aesthetics. You need to have a medical background, and then you have to go to a specialized school. And then if you're not doing the specialized school, it's on us to take that medical professional, who's most often a nurse, to teach them all of the things. So streamlining the training and onboarding is really, really important, because we're dealing with, lasers that are extremely effective, but can cause great damage if misused. So that's a really, really big part of that. So streamlining that is, I would say, probably the most important from a day-to-day aspect.
Really cool. So you have the team, you've built out a great team. Now comes, building successful marketing strategies. So what have you implemented, or you and your team have implemented for marketing strategies for, to focus on client acquisition at Pearl?
Yeah, I'll tell you, having the right client acquisition is probably the biggest struggle for any business. How do you target that right client? And I will tell you, and be very upfront, is that most of what we do is word of mouth. We do not heavily invest in print, in all of that sort of stuff, because the market has shifted in a way that, and our client base can't be reached. These women are not sitting on their cell phones looking through TikToks for the next, deal. They're not, so trying to reach them, it's all about what we do, creating an experience where a woman can come into our clinic and say, oh my God, they know me. They've listened to me. They get what I want. They know what I want. They know how to deliver that. So the biggest thing in our marketing strategy is one, word of mouth. So just creating that in-clinic, experience for them. Our outbound marketing, we are just dabbling in this now. I've worked probably the past year to year and a half on a marketing strategy that will target a different demographic. We've hired new nurses to target the younger, Gen Z, millennials now. Millennials have been in this for a while, but the Gen Z now are coming into this field. And how do we reach them? How do we target them? Because the existing client base that we have is amazing. They are with us for the rest of their life, believe it or not. Like they're not leaving. Whereas now we have to shift our mindset into what is relatable to these younger girls, right? And what are they looking for? So our marketing is now, we're pumping out some good digital marketing. We just started launching that now. We started working with a company. So email marketing has been a really big thing for us. We have a really robust email marketing list. So email marketing is big in this field, and things like that.
Yeah. Awesome. So, I mean, you touched on it a little bit already. You said that your long-term client relationship is really crucial in your field, and you have people for, the lifetime of their life. What are some of the key practices to make sure that you maintain that really strong client connection?
Yeah. So the biggest thing comes down to, when women come into these sort of establishments, they are expected to be sold something. And I've always taught in the thought that you're not selling anything in particular. At the end of the day, it translates into a sale. What we're doing is we're listening first. What are their problems? What are they really looking for? Because although we might have the latest and greatest, newest thing, it's this delicate balance between, yes, let's try to make this sale, or maybe we're putting this on promotion, but ethically doesn't make sense. So we listen first. We hear them, we reiterate to them, okay, let me understand, make sure that our communicate, what I'm hearing from you is right.
Yeah.
And what we do is we deliver on a solution as opposed to a platform, a technology, a device, or whatever it might be. So it's really ensuring that every step of the way, and their needs will change throughout the lifetime, through even the first year or 2 years. And a big thing is really being forthcoming and honest and transparent about what results you can deliver and what you can't deliver. Because with this age of, cell phones and apps and filters and all of the things, it's like, especially with these Gen Zs. Yeah, they're Gen Zs. They come in and it's like, I want to look like this. And they show me an app and I go, that's not real. That's not real. You cannot look like that unless you become a cartoon. Here, let me do a drawing. but what I can do is we can, we have these sort of different services, work with us for 6 months to a year, and then we can kind of make a plan. So the biggest thing is listening to them, developing a plan that really is a solution to their needs, and keeping them a part of the journey. So a big thing for us is before and after pictures. We really, I am, so anyone who comes into the clinic that's looking, let's say, for skin or body treatments, we show them before every and after every treatment what their skin looks like and what their expected outcome will be.
Really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a little bit of flip to kind of the sales and the operations side. So, I mean, you've seen both sides of the coin through your experience in the last, however many years.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges with working in this industry in particular from both perspectives, the sales and the operations?
Yeah. So first, let's talk about sales, because this industry is heavily all about sales. If you're not making sales, you're not making, your quota. The biggest thing, I think I touched on it just very briefly, is that keeping the sales and ethical part of what we're doing kosher, and making sure that, what we're selling is right. Because the competitive nature of what's out there, it's a very heavily saturated market. So this industry is an industry that is oversaturated. And the biggest challenge from sales is that, although we want to make a sale, we want to make it not just a sale at the end of the day. We want to make it a solution. So, our pricing strategy has a big thing to do with that. We are not the, industry of, oh my gosh, I just drew a blank. The industry of, what are those Groupons called? Like the
Groupon?
Like the coupons. What are they called again? Shit. We're going to edit this out.
Yeah.
Oh my God, not Wake Jag. What the heck? What were they? Where you get these coupons online and you buy. Anyways, so.
Weren't they called Groupons?
Groupon, that's it. I think they're Groupon. Yeah. So we're not in the industry of Grouponing or doing these group deals or discounted pricing. And for a long time, the market was that. A lot of these clinics and spas, jumped on this bandwagon of $20 facials, but you're not getting the repeat sale from that. So our price point is at the higher level. We only do 2 events for our clients per year as a customer appreciation events, where we put them, a lot of our services on promotion, and they get deals 2 times a year. So, but we're not in the discount, the bargaining, none of that. You're coming to us for really great service. So from a sales perspective, we deliver on what we're going to promise to you, and we don't promise things that we can't deliver on. I mean, we wouldn't be in business for this long, or be as successful with any other way of doing business. So,
yeah.
From an operational standpoint, again, the landscape in this industry, like outside of COVID, has shifted dramatically. It started in COVID. Oh my God. So the landscape of this field has shifted dramatically, where you now have these massive companies coming in, and I don't want to name the names because I think they're big bullies, but smart from a business standpoint. I get what they're trying to do, but they're coming and buying all of these med spas and doctor-owned businesses, and they are creating this sort of standardized approach where they can be big purchasers of equipment, get the best deals, get the lowest price on consumables. So from a business standpoint, it's great. From an operational standpoint, it's very challenging because now we're facing, higher prices for our consumables. So our price point has to be higher. It allows them to lower their price point to keep their margins. So from an operational standpoint, we're really being this independent, privately owned small business against this great big corporation who's buying hundreds of clinics across the country and in the US now, and monopolizing the industry. So, small guy in, the big ocean sometimes has a little bit harder time keeping with those margins. So it kind of rolls into the operational and the sales piece of it. That strategy is something we really think a lot about. And, because we don't want to hit our, the end user, like the people who come to see us for these services with these outrageous, numbers, but, or prices that they have to pay. So, the other thing I would say too is from an operational standpoint is the human resources aspect of it. So, the hiring, the training, the retention, this industry is ever evolving. So from an operational standpoint, my biggest thing is, we're a group of 11, women that work together long hours of the day. So beyond your resume and beyond your, skill set, we teach you really everything you need to know about this business, but also what are your passions. So operationally, we want to keep our team happy and evolving in a way that they're passionate. So when when somebody comes in, you're not just seeing somebody who's doing the day-to-day redundant in and out treatments. Okay, blah, blah, blah. No, they're passionate about it. You come in, you feel the energy, you're like, I know I'm being taken care of here. So operationally, that's really, really important too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I feel like it comes from the top down. And if you have a lot of people that are very passionate about what they do, when someone walks in through the doors, you feel that energy.
Yeah.
And you've come to the right place. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And to touch base on like the corporate world coming in and kind of buying out everything, it's happening across so many industries. And it's scary because what comes down to it, from my opinion, is what's the level or like the quality of services? What does it do to that, right?
Yeah. No, exactly. You're going in, you're getting cookie cutter treatments. They're standardized across the board. So it's great. Like you're getting a safe treatment, which is good.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, with this industry as well, there's so many, like negative notions about, that come about from, nurses or people working out of their basement doing Botox that are unregulated. How do they get their hands on this stuff? There's, it's really scary. So to have even like a big corporation like that coming in and monopolizing, at least they're in a way standardizing the industry, to make it safer, and hoping to push those people out of the business. We will be fine because of, like I said, just the uniqueness of our offering can't be streamlined. It just can't. Yeah. It's so unique. But so yes, to a point, it's such an annoyance, I would say, for people like us who want to stay independent. But at the same time, it's kind of good because it can push others out of the market that shouldn't even be there in the first place.
That makes sense. I assume that there is a lot of misinformation surrounding, the aesthetics world.
Yes.
What are some of the biggest myths that you've encountered, and how do you educate your patients when they come in and they say, "Hey, I want to look like this," but I look like this, right?
Yeah.
Do you blend the two?
Yeah, I hear a lot. So it's really funny because a lot of the myths come from, if I do Botox, will my face stay like that? Or, what is what people think Botox is, as, an example, it's a neurotoxin. So it impairs the muscle from contracting. And fillers, they're the ones that, people get this, big lip look and big cheeks and, all those things. So there's myths about that. If I do it, am I going to age more? Am I going to look way uglier if I stop doing it? And no, those are complete myths. And you're not going to look older. There's a lot of treatments out there. It's really more about, getting into the right provider's hands, making sure you're going to a reputable company who understands lasers, who understands these sort of treatments. Doctors who are on site is really, really important. There's a lot of really good nurse injectors, let's say, for Botox and filler, but, no problem going to see them, or I have no problem recommending them. But at the same time, it's always better to have a clinic that has a doctor on staff, in a worst case scenario, So yeah, I mean, have you heard anything yourself about like myths that maybe I could help to clarify or debunk?
I'm just trying to think, like my partner, for example, like she does laser hair removal and stuff like that. And they tell her, like in certain times of the year, it's better not to do versus to do. And I have no idea. She just comes home. She's like, feel my legs. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. No.
Yeah. Well, it's true. And that's why I say, the first thing that comes to mind is, the laser hair removal as well, because it's very true. If you ever go to a clinic and they say, oh yeah, we can do this all summer long on tan skin, please don't go. The risk of burning your skin and having a negative outcome is really, really high. And, more than just the myths, because, Google is amazing. Like, it has so much information on there. A lot of it nowadays is fairly accurate, but there are some things that are like, if you look up laser burns, for example, on Google, you'll see some horrific photos. And the majority of those pictures are, if you look at where they're taken in the US or in, a state like Texas, and, on somebody who has really tan skin, and they should never have been a candidate in the first place because their skin is too tanned. And medication. So patient selection is a really big thing when it comes to like the scary things that are out there in the aesthetic field. The TV show Botched does a really good job at highlighting the horrible things that can happen in a plastic surgery setting, but more so taking it down a notch to the med spa setting. I mean, things can go horribly wrong, and I've seen things, with chemical peels being used in the wrong way, and people coming in and going, can you fix this? And it's like, oh my gosh, you don't really want to touch them, but at the same time you feel for them. It's like they lose trust in, the place that they were at. And, it could have been a one-off, you never know, but it just like bad timing, wrong time, wrong place. So we do see a lot of things that we have to fix or correct. And, I think, that's it.
And this leads to a perfect segue to the next question, which is, trust is paramount in any industry, but especially in the aesthetics industry.
Yeah.
Can you share some strategies that PearlMD uses to build the trust and rapport with their patients?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things I say to the team is, if you take a call or somebody comes into the clinic and they say, I want this, or they've read on Google, they've researched and they know something that they want. We never, ever go based on what they say alone. We'll understand, okay, yes, okay, how did you, there's a process of what we do in order to make sure that it's the right treatment. So, it comes down to the right consultation, and that is paramount. Having a consultation in place with the right people doing the consultation is not just about building trust, but it's building the expectation as well. So we are, earlier I had said, we're not going to recommend something if I know we can't deliver on that. If somebody comes in and has a realistic expectation or they're asking for something, we're going to ask the right questions. And, we offer over 60 different services, at PearlMD. And we offer that because of the breadth of, needs that are out there for women and men as well. But mostly women come in, and it's one of those things where it comes down to budget and lifestyle. Lifestyle meaning, are you able to have downtime? Are you looking for something with no downtime? And when we talk about the differences in treatments, it's the more downtime and healing and recovery time you have, typically the better the outcome. So we have treatments that are, maintenance. So if you want to maintain what you have, they're easy peasy treatments. And that's kind of where we get into this like younger demographic. Let's maintain your skin. Let's keep the integrity of what you have going. And we have a lot of that. But building trust comes from, not just taking somebody in because of what they want. It's okay. It might not be that device that you want, but tell me what you're looking for. What I always say this, and I use this when I'm teaching the sales team is, take the mirror and ask them, if you had a magic wand, what would they like to see? And if you had a magic wand to fix whatever that is, they're going to point everything out that you want. And that's where you can start to formulate the best treatment plan for them. So it isn't just a device, isn't just one thing. It's a complete entire process. And it's not going to take one treatment. Most often it isn't. But most often it's going to take 3 to 6 months to achieve a result. So just being forthcoming. So building trust, being open and honest and delivering on that. And the consultation builds that rapport, it builds that trust. And there's, a whole, training session we do about the art of the consultation.
I love that. That's awesome. Looking back on your career, what would you tell your younger self about pursuing a career in the aesthetics industry?
Oh, like go for it. Do it. I mean, I love this field. This is an industry that will perpetually grow. Even through COVID, we, faced a lot of challenges, and we were able to implement a strategy and all of the barriers and all of the, safety measures around creating a health safety environment while still providing treatment. And we still continue to grow 20% year over year throughout, the pandemic. And that's because we leveraged at that point technology, virtual consultations instead of, coming in person for a consultation and me having to really like breathe in through this mask and wear these goggles and the shield and the cover and everything like that. We could be so crazy that we were doing this, in COVID and doing the virtual consults and having, the technology backing us to really continue to grow. So, the in-person visits were more challenging, but we still were able to do that because we were under the class of medical clinic. So we were able to do that. The industry as a whole is going to be, I think, is forecast to be over $100 billion industry. Right now in the US, I think it's sitting at around 80 billion US in the aesthetics field. And if we can, leverage even some of that, we're still good to go for the next 10, 12 years. We currently have one of our flagship locations in Toronto, but we've branched out to have a seasonal location in Muskoka, and that we did, and how we were able to grow through COVID was through that move. A lot of our patients were up in Muskoka. We're like, what services can we offer? We found a location. I did a pop-up up there, and it took off. And this is now our sixth, I lost count, but anyway, up in Muskoka. And it's just, moving with the trends and seeing where the industry is going and knowing that, keeping an eye on the global market for this is really, really key, and how we kind of keep on trends. So Yeah.
Really cool. So was the whole idea for the Muskoka side of things was because people would go out there for the summers to their cottages and spend time out there in the summer, so kind of come to them?
Exactly. And especially with
That's
all the
awesome.
lockdowns, people retreated to their cottages.
Yeah.
And we were like, what are the services that we can offer? And people gravitated. They were up there the whole summer. They're like, oh, get me out of the cottage. Where can I go?
Yeah.
What can I do?
Do
And
something.
we were literally doing Botox out of a marina in Muskoka. Like
Oh,
it
cool.
was, but it worked. It's
Yeah.
so, unorthodox to think that, we, in a pandemic, oh my God, everybody's shut down. But when you think outside of the box and you can get really creative and keep business going no matter what, like that's part of the resiliency that you build of, being in business and creative and not being afraid and, just plowing through. That's it.
That's really, really cool. Good for
Yeah.
you. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Um, what are three pieces of advice that you would give to someone that's looking to grow their own business in the aesthetic industry?
Ooh. Starting out, kind of like I did, do your due diligence. Find nowadays, I would say, if you're starting a new business, find a niche. Don't be the everything to everyone because
Yeah.
you will get lost. It's very expensive to operate. The equipment, the warranties on the equipment, and things like that are really, really, really high. So unless you're established, you can only then grow. So start with, a niche market, whatever that passion is for you, go with that. And if you have a passion for something, it will take you far. And I know there are people that say, "Oh, passion alone isn't going to do it." Trust me, it will motivate you and it will drive you. So, and market. That is the biggest thing now because the field is so competitive and the industry is so saturated. Marketing to a very specific demographic is what you need to do. So do your research, understand what the treatments are, and go with it. Like pick a niche and do it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite client story or or maybe multiple or anything that you want to share?
Yeah, I
Something that sticks
do.
out to
Oh
you?
my gosh. So I'll tell you this one, and going back to this idea that this industry is so superficial and it's so vain and this and that. Well, it is, but at the same time, there are a lot of treatments that we do for people who have disfigurements in their skin,
Okay.
and people who have severe acne, who have grown up, who are full adults, who maybe never had acne as a child, but in their adulthood has developed this, systemic acne all over, and they are mortified. They don't know how to kind of face public, or, if they've had acne, there's terrible scars that can be left behind on the skin. And one of my most favorite stories is this woman who came in and you could see her like she was just down and depressed. Like it has such a deep effect on anyone. And I didn't even know if we could do anything because her situation was so severe. Like she had welts all over her face, like it was on her
Wow.
eyelids, it was everywhere. And I was really struggling. And, we at the time had this one treatment that was developed for treating melanoma on the skin. And we were using it for mild to moderate acne cases. And I wasn't sure if this was going to help. And I said, I can't promise, but let's do this because this is going to be the most intense for you. It's a lot to go through, but let's work on your skin for the next year. I was blown away at her result. As she was going through the 1 month check-in, the 3 month treatment, the 6 month check-in, every time she came in, you could see her more and more happy and see her transforming back into the woman she should be and not have this disfigured acne. At the end of it, her skin was so clear. She had literally abolished all of this, cystic
Wow.
acne, and she was a brand new woman. She was crying. I was crying. Her husband came in. He was hugging me and thanking me. He thought he was like it really, I think she was like to the point of like not wanting to like continue in life. Like that's how serious it was. So this to me, I was like, not that I saved her life, but at the end of the day, helped her get back to herself and see her life again, in the right way. So I think of all of my years and, in this field, that was probably my most impactful story. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
And it had nothing to do with, oh yeah, somebody's sort of really, really beautiful. Like, no, it's so much more than that. I mean, those are the nice things to have, but
Yeah,
when you can really affect someone's life that way, it's amazing. Yeah.
that is amazing. Thank
Yeah.
you for sharing that. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Oh, thanks for asking.
Um, what exciting trends or innovations do you see shaping the future of aesthetics? And I'm sure by the time this conversation is done, it will change 5 more times.
Right. Just like the new iPhone 15 Pro Max edition, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, oh my God, I just get this phone. I'm like, what? There's a new phone already?
There's a new one. Yeah.
100%. So, interestingly enough, so where the field was, even 10 years ago was like, for example, for skin, full on resurfacing. Like if you want perfect skin, you have to resurface your skin. You have a month of downtime. There's, these ablative treatments that like peel off all the layers, and you have to rebuild your whole skin to get this, flawless glowing skin. The trends now are, in the field of regeneration. How do we use our own body to regenerate itself? So the biggest trends are things like, and I don't know if you have heard, but like exosomes. They are really these really cool like little vesicles that are part of your platelets, which is part of your immune system and your recovery system. So these are these little vesicles that communicate to your other skin cells how to behave. So we're just kind of waiting for this Health Canada approval. They have been approved for topical use, but the real magic in these little vesicles are in the topical skin regeneration, where we create these little injury points in the skin. These exosomes go onto the skin and tell your skin how to behave. Well, where these exosomes are derived are kind of crazy, but it's from their age 0, which means they're from humans who are just born, their umbilical cord, and they're taken and manufactured into the serum that you apply onto the skin. So have you heard of like cord blood or stem cell harvesting? Any of those sort of terms ring a bell?
Yeah.
So anyway, in our industry, these exosomes are now the newest. They're the up and coming, because what will happen, and I've been using them on my skin since November when we got them and we launched them, but it's a topical serum that will tell your skin to start behaving as it was age 0. And it will take time to get there. So I'm literally the guinea pig for myself and saying, okay, how much younger can my skin look? So, yeah, I'm really, really excited to see that and that translate into a market, because, topical products, as an example, are flooding the market, and half of them are garbage, absolute garbage. Like they're just really cleverly marketed. But the real power is in the science behind a product and the innovations and things like that. So, where is the industry going? I think with very natural, regenerative, treatments, non-invasive treatments, whereas historically they're very invasive, very little to no downtime, and more maintenance treatments. So more and more women are coming in earlier and earlier to help their skin and slow down the aging process. I always say age gracefully. I say to women, like, aging is going to happen. We can do it very gracefully and non-invasive. It just comes to the point where, when you wait too long to have a little bit of intervention, then you start getting into like the really heavy duty things that need to be corrected. But trends now are going towards very natural, very minimal downtime, low risk. So yeah, it's really exciting. And both for men and women, like men are really, starting to keep up with this sort of thing too. So that's nice to see, because, women, we put all this time and effort into looking and being a certain way. And like, men, you get away with just, putting some soap on your face and some gel in your hair and away you go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, for the longest time, my face routine was shampoo dribbled down from
See?
my hair onto my face. Now I have
That's
like a
it.
4-step skin routine, and my girlfriend's like, okay, like
That's it.
time for this serum. I'm like, and I get excited. I'm like, ooh, what are we doing next?
Yeah, yeah. And as men age, I mean, I specifically talk about women, but men too, including my hubby. It's like, he's like, oh, this is perfect. I'm like, you are perfect, honey. Guys just have a different outlook on things, and but you do, as you age, you start to notice the little things, like the little crow's feet happening, and
Yeah,
that sort of stuff, or the gray hair starting to happen. Okay, no, I'm kidding. But all part of the aesthetic of being human, right? So
100%,
yeah.
100%. Awesome. Well, I'm all out of questions. I thank you so much for your time
Oh,
today. To our listeners, Sam's information is going to be linked below. If you have any other questions, please reach out to either one of us. I'm sure she'd be happy to help her and answer any questions that anybody has. Sam, hang out on the call after this. After I
sure.
end it, I got a couple of just closing things for you.
Okay.
But thank you so much again, and I really appreciate your time.
Oh, thanks. And thanks for having me.
Thank you.